Before we start off, I'd like to tell everybody to just take a deep breath so that we can start off in a Zen mode, alright? Let's just take a deep breath. Okay, so welcome to the first ever episode of Design Sucks. And today we have with us the Samsung One UI. So they recently updated their software, and they've also, have claimed to completely redesign their operating system as well. So today with me, I have a special guest. He's Sparsh Sangal.
What's up, guys?
And he's a colleague of mine, and he owns a Samsung for like how many years now? A year, about.
Yeah, a year and a half.
Okay, so this is one of those guys who shifted from iOS to Android. So,
Yeah.
so I have a questionnaire for him today, and I will be giving my opinions about Samsung's One UI as well. And at the end, we will judge whether Samsung's One UI sucks or rocks. So let's get started. So okay, I'll ask you a few questions about Bixby. You just give your opinions about it based on how you use it.
Okay.
So the card interface. So if you've seen Bixby or Samsung UI in general, in One UI, all the cards are very properly rounded on the corners. And as a designer, I also round the corners of a lot of cards. I've done it back in the day as well. But in this case, they've actually given complete rounded edges. So even the edges have been rounded, mainly for screens which have like a corner, like an edge, so as to say.
Infinity display.
Yeah, like an infinity display. It's mainly designed for infinity displays. I'll put up a picture here. You be the judge. Do you like it or you don't? Put that in the comments below. So, according to you, have you noticed? Is that something that you've noticed, the rounded corners, and what do you feel about it?
I did notice them, but basically the thing is, I believe they did it for the infinity display, right?
Yeah.
And it actually goes with it.
Yeah.
If you look carefully, it doesn't look that appealing to eyes. But if that works on S8, so that's good enough for me.
Okay.
So basically, it goes with the screen, so it's alright with me.
Okay, so yeah, even I agree. It goes with the screen pretty well. Since there's an infinity display, there is no end to that display. So since it's rounded on the edges, it doesn't really pop on.
They
onto the
basically
eyes.
go together.
Yeah, it goes together. Yeah, so it's very important to focus on what devices you're designing for, uh, before even knowing what kind of users you're designing for. That's something that I like to start off with, because if you're designing for a larger screen or if you're designing for a curved screen, you have to design. You have to start your design.
See, the software have to be adaptable with the hardware.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. That was a very good point. Kudos on that. Okay. So that was a very good point made by Sparsh, that the software should adapt with the hardware. So you have to see how the hardware works before you know how the software has to work. So that was a nice point. Um, is everything really in one place? Okay, so there's something that if you go to Samsung's website, for One UI they have actually, and for Bixby they have advertised this, and they're saying everything is in one place. Now, if you were a designer, you would know the Gestalt Principles for UX design. One of the principles which says things which are related to each other are placed closely to each other. So this works well with navigation, and maybe when you're trying to group things together, you want them to be closer to each other. So the closer they are, the more similar they will feel to the user. So has Bixby been able to do that, group things together better for you, like as a user, or do you find that's something you haven't noticed yet, or it's something you don't really care about?
Well, I don't really care about that stuff, but you can see Samsung really tried. God damn, they really did, but that really didn't really work for them. I think they could have done it better.
Okay.
So, as you can see, if you go to the Bixby section, they got all the cards placed right next to each other and they're related to each other. But that doesn't really work. It doesn't have that fluidity in them.
Okay.
If you if I go to news section, it's basically got some UC browser news and it's in Hindi too. I don't read Hindi news.
Okay.
I don't think so. I have the option to change it right now.
Okay. So this is where personalization comes in, and we will be talking about personalization in a second. But I would like to point something out with this proximity and all the cards and everything is another Gestalt principle which I just cannot put my finger on. I'll put on the screen. If I remember throughout, give me a like. I don't know. So basically, one of the Gestalt principles says what it says is what does it say, bloody? So since you spoke about fluidity, one of the Gestalt principles says that a good designer will help the user, will lead the user from one point to the other point. All the interfaces work in the same way. So for example, I'll put up a shopping cart application right here. So when you're shopping, at the bottom right, often there is an option to add to cart, or at the bottom there's something which says add to cart or buy now. And what that is leading the user from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, or anywhere. It could be on the right, it could be on the left. So basically, Samsung did not achieve this completely. I'd say, according to you,
They tried to, but
they tried
just
to.
couldn't.
That it's not fluid enough. It's not leading the user from one part of the page to the other. So there's no there's no point of putting following one principle when the other principle is not there.
They basically try to cluster everything together,
Yeah. Okay.
and it just doesn't look so good.
Okay. So basically, they clustered everything.
Yeah.
And because it's clustered, it's more complex.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get it, and it's very true. I also feel that they could have done a better job with actually grouping things together and also leading the user from one section to the other. You know, Google does a much better job with that.
Yeah.
Uh, Google also gives you personalization options, and it does a much better job.
Google has been in this game for a long time.
Long time.
Samsung
Yeah,
stepped in.
that's an excuse for Samsung. They just started, this, so they must be bad, you know. Now, the Bixby button is a hardware button. Now, a lot of times as designers, we forget about things which are, like hardware related. So, even if they're integrated inside the software, for example, now in the iPhone 10, what happens is there is no home button, right? So when you're designing now, you're designing for a completely bezel-less screen, and now the actions have also changed. So earlier we just used to click the home button to go back home. Now we're scrolling up. Often this might have happened with you on Samsung as well.
Yeah.
On Samsung now also there are like gestures.
Yeah.
So you can like close it using the
Came with the one UI.
yeah, with one UI. So gestures, I feel oftentimes when we're designing, we must keep uh, what the system already has in mind, because since this has, I as a user also, if I use an application, I often scroll from the bottom to the top, and while doing that, I might accidentally exit the application, and this has happened a lot.
Yeah.
This has happened with everybody who's using a bezel screen with those actions. So Samsung's Bixby, the Bixby button kind of fixes that for Bixby, because we're not using a gesture to reach Bixby, right?
Yeah.
We're using a button to reach
I have
Bixby.
to counter that point. Actually, the thing is, swiping up from your bottom of the screen puts up Samsung Pay.
Okay.
Okay. Now I want that option, that I want my Google Assistant to come up when I swipe up at the screen,
Yeah.
because swiping up is basically pressing up the home button.
Yeah.
So basically that overlays with the Samsung Pay,
Yeah.
and sometimes Samsung Pay is open, sometimes Google Assistant open, sometimes both of them.
Okay.
So I don't think they put their thought into it, and it's a software flaw,
Yeah.
but that doesn't work because, and they don't give you option to use that Bixby button for to use it with Google Assistant.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something, this is kind of controversial because Samsung, isn't playing well with Google right now, because it doesn't allow them your Bixby button to remap to Google Assistant or any other assistant, voice assistant in
You can
Mac.
basically use it to like open a camera. Or
Camera. Okay. So now this is a very good point he's made. Earlier, I used to have those old Sony phones. Remember, a while back, Sony was decent in the market, and they used to have a camera bump on the side of the phone. They used to have this button which if you clicked, you could reach inside the camera. If you click again, you'll click it like a proper shutter.
Okay.
So, do you remember that? there used to be a time there was a hardware button to reach the camera.
Yeah, I think it's that Sony Ericsson something.
Sony Ericsson had that. Even later on, Sony kind of kept with that flow.
The starting Xperia version.
So I believe it's a very unique feature. I would use it definitely. Is having a hardware button for something like a camera, because we in today's time we access the camera so much
Yeah.
for selfies, for clicking photos, and like, we're clicking a video on a phone right now. And Apple, I would really appreciate if you put more thought into it.
It's basically convenient, more
Yeah.
convenient for the user.
Let's come to customization. First of all, let's talk about. Hey doggy. Yeah, so let's talk about dark versus light mode. Is dark mode something, a system-wide dark mode, something that you appreciate? Is it something you can do without? Is it a deal breaker for you? What's your situation?
Definitely love the dark mode. You see, I use my mobile a lot in when I'm in bed and when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
So having a black screen doesn't really put that much stress on your eyes.
Okay.
So if you had that system wide,
Yeah.
if you basically check anything
Yeah.
from your settings to text message or anything,
Yeah.
it's all it's all black. So that's really
Stars need makeup too. You know what I'm saying?
so it's definitely a yeah for me.
Okay, so it's a yay for you because
It's a big yeah for me.
a lot of people don't like. A lot of people use the light mode straight, even if they have an option. Even if it's advertised, people will still stick to a light mode. I've seen this with a lot of people. You know, I personally also love the dark mode. I have it on my Mac. I have it on my. I wish I could have it on my phone. Apple, are you listening to me? So hopefully that will come soon. But dark modes, I'll put up a few researches on the page. Researches showing that dark mode actually helps the eyesight or actually puts less strain, because that's an argument which has been going down in the design world as well. Does a dark background help the eyes, the visibility? Because a lot of times what happens in design is, if you're designing a dark application with dark elements, dark background, the visibility of the text can sometimes reduce, because on a white background, dark text works perfectly. You know, it's easier to read on a light background than on a dark background, because a lot of these systems and applications have grayed out text and dark backgrounds,
Yeah.
which might not work for everybody. Especially
It
if
doesn't
you're
look appealing to the eye.
yeah, especially if you're an old person, readability is very important.
Yeah.
Or even someone with like me with such amazing eyesight. You know, I have to wear this my specs all the time, and if I remove my specs just like this and I try to read something here, visibility on a dark mode can get reduced. There's something that I personally feel.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so let's talk about customization and personalization, something that I promised earlier in the video. Now, I read a research paper last night, speaking about, which was a research done with people, seeing how people reacted to a website with high amounts of customization or customizability, and versus sites where there was no customization at all. It was just a website where you could do stuff, but you can't customize it. So actually, it was surprising to see that a lot of people um, preferred the websites where there was less customizability. You know, where they could had less customization options. So because often when you have more options, you get confused.
Yeah.
And that the study clearly states that. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll give a link to that down in the description.
Basically, people want that as soon as they get in, they get the work done, they want to get out.
Yeah.
Okay. And in customization, you have to get in. You have to choose.
Yeah.
Of all the choices you've got.
Yeah.
And that takes time and time of that person who's using it.
Yeah.
And people don't really like that. People want to let's get this over with. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
And same thing. Like if I want to take an example, when I go to a Subway.
Yeah, Subway.
Okay. I just want a sub.
Okay.
I go in there. I have to choose what vegetables, what flavor I want. Okay, and I get out there.
Okay.
I don't want that.
Okay.
I don't want to go in. I want to say I want that sub. I don't want it on my table.
Okay.
I don't want to go all that customization hassle.
Okay, so what you're saying is when you go to Subway, you just want a sub.
Yeah.
You hate it when you have to tell the person what to put and what not to put.
Yeah.
Okay. True. I faced that same problem, and he's given a very good opinion about this, because oftentimes we don't relate things to actual real life problems. And he stated a very good real life problem. Even when I go to a McDonald's and order a burger, they ask me cheese or no cheese. And in my mind, I don't want cheese. But why is he asking me
Yeah.
whether I want cheese or
I
not?
would have said I want cheese if I wanted it.
Yeah. So that is something that can get annoying, especially on a long term. If you're using
Yeah.
something on a long term, what happens is often we customize something, we realize something else was working better, and we
Yeah.
have to go back to that. So we keep on experimenting, and this is something that's put up in the paper as well. First, we have to go to that customization. We have to find where the customization is first. Then we have to customize it and choose from so many options, and then we get to use it. And often when we use it, we're like, okay, we went through so much hard
Yeah.
work
You spend all that time and for that what?
for something that failed.
Yeah.
In your case, you know. So often the safer route is to go the non-customization route, where the user isn't able to customize a lot of stuff. Uh, Apple does this. You've been an
Yeah.
Apple user before.
That's why I prefer Apple over Android. Apple is bare bones. They keep the same UI for every user, and if they basically give you a little space for customization, like a wallpaper and screensaver.
Yeah,
No, Apple don't have
wallpaper and
screensaver,
stuff.
right? Wallpaper and stuff.
Yeah,
Basically.
things like that. Small things.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
If you come to Android, you have got 20 options. You have got 20 launchers up there,
Yeah.
and that doesn't really work for me.
There are two kinds of customizations: interface customization and product customization. So the problem is with Android, I've come to see that it has both. You can customize the interface, no problems. But now with Samsung, especially with One UI, you're able to customize so many features inside it.
Yeah.
You know how you have to use an application. You can choose how where the placement for something should be, what data you want to see. So after all that, you might not like that customization,
Yeah.
and you want to come back. So since you have two customizations, UX designers, listen up. So you have basically interface customization and product customization. Product customization often happens where, like here, you can change stuff with Bixby. Yeah, right. So you're basically changing the set of features here. You know how it's working for you, rather than not only how it looks, but also how it works. So I think that's something that's not just Samsung One UI, but also in Android, that's a common thing that we see. One more thing that I would like to ask you is product personalization.
Okay.
Again, something different from customization. What personalization means is the system or the software, in this case, One UI, brings up for you. So earlier in the video, you stated that you were getting Hindi news,
Yeah.
stuff you didn't want to see. So if you don't read Hindi news and things like that, in a general case, you should be getting things which you require,
Yeah.
or the things which you read. You know, you should get recommendations based on that, and that is something that personalization means. You get recommendations based on things that you like.
Basically, how the today's algorithm works to basically to put the news in the front that you want.
Yeah. So, like a lot of companies advertise artificial intelligence embedded inside their systems, trying to read where you're going. So basically, Google tracks everywhere you go.
We're all being tracked, man.
You're all being tracked.
All being tracked.
So that's kind of scary for me. Like personalization
That's true.
can get scary
Yeah,
if there's artificial intelligence involved.
Personalization is basically them collecting your information
Yeah.
of how you like stuff, and that does kind of sound scary, I think.
Yeah, a lot of times they collect data which might not be related to what they want to personalize
Yeah.
for you. But I understand that because I'm a UX designer and I've done research before, so I know that how important different kinds of research is. So maybe if they want to know your location, they will know, okay, you are traveling to such places, and based on that they can give you other data, other
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
So for example, if you're living in South India, you would obviously want localized news.
Recommendations and news.
Yeah, so I get where they're coming from, but for a general user who doesn't know anything about UX,
Yeah.
might get scared. Why are they taking my data for? Okay. Okay, so one more thing that I need to bring up, which I am very angry with Samsung, is I kind of started bringing in designs. I started designing for larger screens, and when I did that, I started placing everything towards the bottom. So the upper half was generally clean. There was not much information on the upper half. So I'll put some of my designs up on the screen, and I'll put up my design on the on the left, and on the right I'll put Samsung's One UI and how it's been how it's been designed. And I want to tell you, have they or have they not followed the same way I was designing? Because earlier when I started designing like this, before One UI was even in development, possibly, people were criticizing me for putting everything towards the bottom. I had to actually explain to them that this might, influence usability. Because do you face problems with one-handed usage on a
Not
large
really.
screen?
And as you can see, I got a big hand, so using a mobile by one hand is not really a problem for me.
Okay. You will, and do you like stretch out your thumb sometimes to the top and things like
I
that?
do, but that's okay for me. I'm used to it.
Okay, now you're used to it.
Yeah, but bringing everything down doesn't really makes it that accessible.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying that things, when the things are brought towards the bottom,
Yeah,
towards closer to your thumb,
yeah.
it's really not helping you out
No,
with anything.
just not really.
Okay.
It's basically the same like it was before for me.
Okay. Okay. So, according to Sparsh, um, you know, you're trying to say that it doesn't really help you at all,
No.
and you, if this change wasn't made, you would be completely okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I mean, I don't know about people with small hands. I am okay with it.
okay. So I kind of am for this design of bringing everything to the bottom. I kind of don't agree with you on that because I feel that again people have small hands. Not only that, uh, this is a Samsung Galaxy S8. You said right?
Yeah. S8 Plus.
S8. Okay, this is an
It's got a
S8
bigger
Plus.
screen.
What about Note 9?
Yeah, that's true.
What about Note 9? There are a lot of devices which are larger in size, and often the users have small hands. Again, you have a big hand.
Yeah.
A lot of times users will have small hands.
You realize the need of it when you actually get the bigger device in your hand.
Yeah, yeah. I've always stuck to smaller devices like 5, 5.2, 5.5 inches max. And I've always tend to come back to smaller device screens because I prefer a smaller screen since, again, one-handed use, again, you need that. Now coming towards the end, okay, it's about to end. I know I bored you guys a lot. This guy also bored you a lot. Okay, don't put the blame on me. Come on. So, coming to the end, let's wind everything up. What more would you add to One UI? Is there a feature, or is there a design component that you would want to add to One UI, or you miss from maybe the iPhone or from previous Android versions? What would you bring to One UI which it doesn't exist?
I don't know, man. One UI was like a big upgrade for Samsung.
Yeah.
So it's pretty damn good from comparison to its old Android UI it used.
agree.
But I do hope they uh, utilize the Bixby better,
Okay.
give more customization. And Samsung gives you customization options, but they kind of put a limit to it. So you get customization option, but with a limit. So either give it full or don't give it at all.
Okay. Okay.
Like for the Bixby button, I can only remap to a camera or something. I would have loved it if I could have used Google Assistant for it. And I definitely want them to fix their flaws, like that Samsung Pay stuff I talked about earlier.
Okay.
Samsung Pay and Google coming
Okay.
up together. That's a
Okay.
big deal breaker for me.
Okay.
So I use both of them more frequently.
Okay, so you're saying the gestures aren't mapped very
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
That for one gesture there's multiple features. Like there are multiple things coming up with
Yeah.
just one gesture. And what would you remove? Okay, so this is something that would you remove the gestures completely, or would you like to keep the gestures?
No, I love the gestures. I think gestures are make a workflow more smoother. That's for me at least.
Okay.
And I basically want them to fix it. I don't want to remove it. but fix how they work, fix the fluidity between them.
Okay, so you want the gestures to, would gesture customization help you with that? You can customize what gesture brings up what. Would that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Um, okay. So what would you remove from one UI? Would you remove a feature? Would you remove something? Not fix it, but maybe just completely have it gone. Is there something that troubles you with one UI?
Not really, I don't think so.
Okay. So all in all, you find it's a good
Yeah, it's a
user
good UI.
interface.
Way better than what they had before.
Before. Okay. So okay. So now the big question comes from both of us is, uh, does Samsung One UI suck or it rocks?
It's a rock for me.
Okay, so it's a rock for him, and since they copied my style of design, no, I'm just kidding. For me, it rocks as well. Tell me how you liked Samsung's One UI based on things you've seen. Down in the comments, just place. Does it suck or does it rock? If you go ahead and like this video, I would appreciate it. And we'll keep on making more stuff. I'll have Sparsh maybe again. Want him to be here. I can just get rid of him. Or you can just subscribe to my channel. Go ahead, quickly do that, because that'll help me out a lot, and that'll tell me that you guys like this series, because I want to keep on making this, and if you support it, I'll be able to make it more. So, see you guys later.